Good morning, everyone. It's time for our first English session of the day, right? And with a fantastic subject that I really love because it's supposed to be a real sweet spot for the hydrogen fuel cells and hydrogen economy, and it's about trucks. And fortunately for us, we have around the table two great people who are very much involved in this subject. Starting with Sabrine SKIKER from Hydrogen Europe, and we will explain why Hydrogen Europe is very much concerned about the subject, and Giuliano Giovannini, I was forgetting one, sorry, from IVECO. IVECO is, of course, I guess you've seen a lot of trucks with IVECO brand on the roads across Europe. IVECO has surprised everyone in September with a very strong announcement, investing, remember, $250 million in Nikola, right?
Yeah, right.
And short after that, also announcement with about partnerships with Bosch. Yep. So that makes two very big European players saying suddenly, yeah, hydrogen for trucks is a subject. So I'd like you to tell us where you're coming from and why you have decided in September to really kick off the subject.
So basically, these, of course, falls into the big scenario that we are all aware of about the strong path there to decarbonization that the European Commission has set for trucks OEM. In order to reach by 2030 a 30% reduction of the overall emission in terms of CO2 of the park. And as you know, IVECO has a long history of focus on alternative fuels and sustainable solutions for transport. We have already electric buses, electric light commercial vehicles. We have full range provider of gas vehicles, which we are strongly still focused on. But for sure, to reach the long-term target, we absolutely acknowledge the importance of starting developing a consistent roadmap of product development for electric trucking, zero-emission vehicle, also for medium and heavy vehicles. And when we discussed about how to get there, we focused and we met Nikola, this former startup in US, because now they are much more than a startup, with a pretty big research center with a lot of funds and a lot of expertise, and we absolutely recognize their competencies in developing fuel cell trucks. And we think that fuel cell trucks are one of the most important long-term solutions, especially for long haulage, because they've got consistent advantages versus the battery electric solution.
Well, you know, I'm well known as a hydrogen evangelist, so I'm very convinced about the subjects, but I really would like to understand from you, because you're talking to the real customers, the transporters, the guys who are really having to buy trucks and have a profitable business on the roads with those trucks. My conviction is that hydrogen is a perfect sweet spot for this kind of application, but I'd like to hear from you what is the feedback that you get from your customers about the solution.
Well, at the moment, of course, there is a great interest from many sectors, many customers, also because many shippers are setting to themselves even more committing roadmaps to decarbonization versus the one that we are compelled to from the legislation point of view. So all the customers, all truck operators are really focused in understanding what the market will look like, and they are all very focused about understanding what hydrogen could represent for them. And everybody is more or less aware that in terms of range, refueling time, and impact in terms of payload, hydrogen is by far probably the best solution for long haulage, especially if compared to battery electric. So there is a great interest. We are aware, and everybody is aware, that the transition will not happen overnight. So the challenges are huge because we have to build an overall ecosystem around this new burning product, you know. So it will be about a great investment and focus and work from all the stakeholders, policymakers, energy company, OEMs, customers, shippers, infrastructure makers to make this happen. And it will be a long transition. So, but we think that for sure from 25 on, hydrogen will slowly but surely build its own space into the marketplace as a consistent solution for long haulage especially.
Early December, you were organizing an event for your customers in Italy, inviting customers from all over Europe, right? Was it a success?
Yes, it was a great success, of course, because they were pretty much enthusiastic, perhaps even too much of a success, because now everybody is waiting for this happening tomorrow morning, no? Which is not the case, even if we are running fast, because, you know, our first trucks, we will have also a battery electric truck, which will hit the market 2021. Our first fuel cell should hit the market in 2023, but it will be the first phases, no? We all must be aware that it is the start of a journey. But it's great to see such a great interest and such an availability and willingness to test, to try, to discuss, to understand the business model, to understand the impact on the TCO, which would be one of the challenges at the beginning, for sure. But it's great. It's real buzz. It's nice to be involved in this kind of process at the moment, of course.
So to make it happen, we need first project, right? And there is a European project called H2Hall, right? Sabrine, can you introduce a bit this project?
Thanks, Bertrand. I think I'll first start by introducing Hydrogen Europe.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. It's
well, you have the logo over there. But we are a Brussels-based association representing the industry. So we have today 148 industry companies that are with us to promote hydrogen technologies in Brussels. We just welcomed the CNH group as a new, very active member. And here the idea is to, of course, look for the most promising ways to promote hydrogen in all segments. In mobility, gas, heating, along the whole value chain. Now to H2Hall project. Indeed, I mean, as you said, it's a journey. One of the first steps is this EU project, which is co-founded by the Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking, in which IVECO is involved, along with VDL, so the Dutch OEM VDL, who is working as an integrator for DAF. So here the plan is to deploy 16 trucks in 4 different countries, among which France, south of France to be more specific, in the area of Fos-sur-Mer near Marseille.
Yeah, and I think Hydrogen Europe is also working on studies in order to understand the market dynamics for the H2 trucks.
So, your first statement was that hydrogen in trucks is a sweet spot. I think that was your first sentence. I think we have to get it 1 year back. January 2019, before the approval of the directive that Giuliano mentioned, it was not a done deal. It's still not a done deal. But at that time, we set up a working group within Hydrogen Europe dedicated to trucks. In this working group, we have the whole supply chain. We have the infrastructure providers, the fuel cell suppliers, the tier 1, the OEMs, obviously, and we are getting in discussion with end users, potential customers. I'm very proud to say that we have something like 40 members now within this group, and the plan has been within this 1 year to look into what is the market, what does the market look like, where hydrogen trucks would fit best. And here, indeed, long haul. I think everyone will agree that long haul is one of the most promising areas. But we are also looking into regional distribution in some instance. And here I'd like to mention Hyundai plans to deploy 1,600 trucks in Switzerland. So the first one being shipped to Switzerland as we speak. Along with then potential interest in other type of trucks that require high energy use. And here I'd like to mention garbage trucks, for example, or trailers running on hydrogen, as you can see outside of the fair, right? That has been developed by Chéreau, the French company Chéreau.
So I guess you have a good understanding of the players on the market today. How the other truck players, especially European ones, taking the subject? Are they really already involved?
Absolutely. Here, again, I think the directive has been a key driver, and along with the EU Green Deal and with the fact that we have to become carbon neutral by 2050, I mean, that's a goal set by the President of the Commission, and we all have to achieve this. And we can see a change in the OEM's interest. Here I'd like to mention the strong engagement from Daimler. So Daimler Trucks that announced back in October, I think, last year, that they don't want to sell combustion engines in 20 years' time. So in 2039, they will only build hydrogen and battery electric trucks. It might sound, well, it's in 20 years, but if you think 2 seconds that this company is building, I don't have the figures, but I guess 99.9% of the trucks they build today are combustion engine, this is a very strong statement.
Coming back to IVECO, I'd like to understand your roadmap. I mean, you are already involved in H2 as we said, but I know many shippers, transporters who are really trying to see when they will be able really to make orders, right, for 10, 50, 100, thousands of trucks. How do you see this roadmap and take off?
So, as said before, shortly we are going to start collecting orders for the battery electric vehicle in 2021 and for hydrogen vehicles in 2023. This is, at the moment, our product planning. In the meanwhile, of course, we will have test and field test with some partner customers, among which the one with of the H2O project. And basically, that's it. That's it.
Okay.
And we see, as I said, in the future, a steady increase of the penetration of zero-emission vehicle in the medium and heavy business. And we forecast that probably in 2025 could be already something like around 8% of our sales, and probably the double going near to 20% in 2030 maybe, which is already a big amount if you consider the overall truck market, because out of 400,000 vehicles sold per year in medium heavy business, you are talking about already 100,000 maybe trucks, zero emission in 2030, which is already a very big amount for which you need to be prepared in terms of infrastructures, especially, and the ecosystem, as said. I mean.
So basically, this is my next question. How do we get there? What are the main challenges and the barriers that we need to overcome?
Scale. I mean, that's number one. We need to reach scale in order to get the price down. I mean, as simple as that. And here, I'd like to point out to the technology transfers that we can get both on the fuel cell and on the tank side, which are the two main components that are costly today on the vehicle. And here, what we see is that some key stakeholders are looking into developing using the same fuel cell for, be it shipping, be it for train, and for the truck segment. So here we really see an excellent potential. The second thing I'd like to point out is excellent perspective that come from the study that was recently produced by the Hydrogen Council. And here, if you look at the truck segment, page 37, I think, there is a huge potential to get cost parity by 2030 for medium and heavy duty vehicles. So that's an excellent news. My third point is what Giuliano mentioned earlier on the TCO. the fuel is actually 60%, represents 60% of the TCO. So we should not only reduce costs on the vehicle side, but also on the fuel side. And here we are working very hard to get renewable hydrogen and low carbon hydrogen costs dropping. I could talk about it for an hour, but to reach cost parity, because like it's approximately at 4 euro, 5 euro per liter that we would reach parity with diesel.
But basically, it's a sort of market creation. The customers exist, but we need to build the infrastructure. We need to have the vehicles in front of them. So, do you believe that the political support and the European commitment is required? And are you, I guess so, are you connecting to the European Commission, for example, in exchange about your plans?
Sure, for sure. Institution, especially European institution, will be a key stakeholder in this process of this new ecosystem creation. We absolutely need some kind of supportive regulatory policy, incentivation policy, especially for infrastructure, and I would say it's crucial also the low cost of the renewable hydrogen. And we need to have a consistent European-wide policy in order to put in place all the pieces of the puzzle concerning road charging, for example. CO2-based road charging could be one good example. Consistent measure in order to favor some kind of performances of the new zero-emission vehicle. I mean, masses and dimension regulation could be a zero-cost way to make a zero-emission vehicle more performant, for example, in terms of range. So there are many ways where the institution can help this industry, and it has to be a coherent European-wide policy, because we need a certain and stable regulatory framework without any spots around Europe. That would be key, I would say.
And by the way, with regards to the European countries, do you see an homogeneous understanding of the issue and the hydrogen solution from Eastern to Western, North and South, or are there specific geographic spots where there is a stronger focus?
Well, I say we are in the early phase, so for me it's a little bit difficult to comment the reaction of each country. What we saw, for example, is that in our experience in trying to create this ecosystem for the gas, just to make a comparison, yeah, we saw many different approaches country by country, and this is because it's reality now for us. For example, in terms of infrastructure creation, we are pushing a lot to build an infrastructure for LNG trucks around Europe. We are successing, but with different speeds from country to country, different kind of policies, different kind of regulation. So we have an experience here, and we see how difficult it is when you have to manage different legislation and incentive policy country by country. So if this will happen, I would say that I don't think this will happen with hydrogen, because this is somehow, I think that the awareness of how this future zero-emission vehicle challenge importance is even higher than the one we have at the moment for gas. So I think that also hydrogen will somehow benefit of the experience we are currently having with the gas. So I hope that the mistakes somebody is making now will not be made in the future.
Okay, and is there any coordination between the truck manufacturers, or so far everyone is on track?
No, we have our own coordination inside the SIA. We are trying to push we are all quite aligned in that we need to have this coherent phase of ecosystem creation, and we would like to. We are all aligned on the fact that we need this stable regulatory framework. I would say we are all pushing for technological neutrality, because the importance is CO2 and complete decarbonization, whatever the tool is. So, and I think we are quite aligned on that.
Okay, very good. To conclude, Sabrine, what is the agenda? What are the next events upcoming relating to that subject on trucks? I think that you are organizing something in March, right?
Yes, sure. First, maybe I wanted to add, because you didn't name it, but on what is coming up on the agenda, on the EU agenda, is a revision of the Alternative Fuel Infrastructure Directive. That's what you meant, but just to be completely clear, and this will be crucial to make sure that hydrogen has the place it deserves in this directive. Just to make that statement first. On the event, indeed, we will have the very first hydrogen truck event in Brussels on the 5th of March. So you're all welcome to join us. We will, among others, have Gerrit Marx from CNH as one of our dear speakers, with many others. You can, of course, get back to me if you need, if you want more information about the event. That's one, but I don't think it will be the only event. I mean, that's the one first, but everyone in Brussels seems to acknowledge now the crucial role that hydrogen is going to play in the so-called hard-to-abate sectors, in which heavy-duty trucks is part of.
Okay, great. I would love to spend an hour more with you. I love this subject, but it's time to end. Thank you very much for coming here and take advantage of the great audience and people and exhibitors here to talk with all the regions, with the manufacturers and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.